I really do think that there's a lot of misunderstanding in the uranium market as to how the market actually works. I got a feeling people think like uranium, comes out of the mine, it sits in a warehouse, and then one day, you just plug it into the machine and it becomes electricity. And there's just a lot more that goes into it. Here's a question we got through email from a guy named Hung Hua. Can you dig deeper into how uranium gets from A to Z? How does it go from, U308 coming out of the mine and it turns into a fuel rod that's usable?
Yeah. So that's a great question, right? And uranium is mined really a couple of ways: conventional mining or in situ recovery, or ISL, as they would call it. In other parts of the world, in the US, they call it ISR. So conventional mining would be, you have shallow open pit, or you go underground, right, for the mine. In situ recovery is you're putting what looks like you're drilling down into the ground with an injection well. Depending on where you are, you're putting a solution down. You're taking the uranium off the rock, if you will, and you're pulling it out through a recovery well. It goes through a processing system, and then they dry it, and it goes into what's called yellow cake, and then they put it in a drum, and that's just starting the process. And then from there, it gets sent to a converter where it gets converted into UF6, which is a gas. And from the UF6, it then gets sent off to an enrichment plant, and where it gets enriched. They put in a series of cascades, they put the uranium, and they're trying to separate the 235 and the 238, and they're enriching it. It comes out of the ground at 0.71%. They're trying to enrich it up to, for civil nuclear power, 4 to 5%, and for weaponry, 90% plus. And so from there, it then gets sent off to a fuel fabricator, and it gets these pellets, which are the size of my pinky, literally, that could power like 75,000 homes because it's so dense. It then gets sent off to a fabricator, which puts it into fuel rods, and then it gets sent off to the thing. Depending on ebbs and flows, 15, 18, 24 months in that time period is how long that takes, that cycle. And fuel buyers will contract at different stages of it. And what we've seen here recently, they always need to make sure their fabricated fuel is ready to go into the reactors. But if you look at how the cycle unfolds, they start to, it depends on where in the cycle there are perceived shortages or real shortages, and then they go for that first. In this particular case, there was a ConverDyn, which was one of the converters in North America. There's 3 big Western converters: Orano in France, Cameco, Port Hope, Ontario, and ConverDyn, owned by Honeywell at Metropolis Works in Illinois. And ConverDyn shut down. And when they shut down, the conversion services to convert it to UF6 were short, and all of a sudden pricing went from 4 to 20. Right, so everyone focused. Fuel buyers were panicked. I didn't panic. They were running out and securing those services, and it drove it up here. Then the next thing they went after was the enrichment, right? Where that unit of work is called a separative work unit. There was a lot of excess capacity after Fukushima, and so at one point, if they were getting $150 to $200 for a separative work unit, at the low they were getting low 30s. And if you're an enricher, you have excess capacity. There's an ability for you to extract more enriched uranium product than what the order calls for, and then you could send that into the market. So you compete with the miners. And that's called underfeeding, for anyone that might have heard that term. The enrichers were not replacing cascades that spin to enrich when they started to wear out, and so that shrunk capacity, and you've started to see that recover. Now you've seen the price of uranium go from 16, 17 at the low, at late 16, early 17, and here you are 44 and a half or so today, right? So it's up 50%. So it takes a while, and the fuel buyers are contracting at different stages along the way.